Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, 26th April 2016. The first article is related to the judiciary and pending cases before judiciary. The Chief Justice of India, T.S. Thakur, he made an appeal to the Prime Minister and the Chief Ministers to take an action on the pending cases. So, he recommended for increasing the number of judges and the number of courts at every level. If you take an estimate, more than 60,000 cases are pending at Supreme Court, and in total around 3 crores of cases are pending across India. So, when the cases are pending, the suffering of the poor and under trials is going to increase. The sense of injustice that prevails among the people is not good for the country. So, right to equality, if it has to be maintained, having the robust judicial system is very necessary. Further going through this, what we have to do in these circumstances, if we see Indian situation, we have around 16.8 judges for the million population, and the stipulated number is around 50 per million of population. In this context, the 245th report of the Law Commission has clearly stated the rate of disposal mechanism, so a statistical method under which the percentage of the cases being disposed in a particular locality to the proportion of the disposal, the number of judges will be increased in that particular state or locality. So this is what is recommended for implementation. And the second thing is, with regard to the bilateral investment treaty, let us know what is this. A country can sign a BIT with the government of India. So it means that Indian government has to protect the investments of the people of that country who are investing in India. In this case, the central government wants to make an investment agreement with the state governments, and this will be communicated to that particular investor saying that the state government has signed the investment agreement or not. So if it signs the investment agreement, it is going to follow the conditionalities of the union government. Simply like this. So the center and the state, they will make an agreement with each other, and then any investor who is coming up, he will be informed about the agreement status by the center. If a particular state did not sign the agreement with the center, and then the center will inform to the investor that this person did not, or this state did not sign the investment agreement. So, what are the legal aspects of it? If you take the executive power of the union, with regard to international treaties, only the center is responsible. As for the international law, the unitary sovereign power is the union government, and how the union deals with the states is an internal matter. If tomorrow treaty proposals are violated or treaty rules are violated, it is the responsibility of the union rather than the center. And next is giving an opinion to the investor that the state may not be the right destination for you to invest in, may not go well with the states. So instead of this forceful implementation, it is better to bring in a consultative machinery, or better to provide for an understanding to the states on the needs of the treaties and what are the rules under which these treaties are being concluded that makes them to protect the investors' needs better. Now coming to the Afghanistan issue. So let us know what is the political system in the Afghanistan is. Afghanistan original constitution was meant as created a presidential form of government. But however, as none of the political parties got the majority, a national unity government was created. In this NUG, the president is Mr. Ghani and Abdullah is the CEO. So it was said that after 2 years, an amendment will be brought to the constitution to transform the position of CEO as Prime Minister, and executive power will be shared between President and the Prime Minister. So as of now, the infight between the President and the CEO has paralyzed the governance. And second is, the talks with the Taliban, they are seeing no road. The Murree talks were started through Pakistani mediation, but no faction, the real factions of Taliban did not participate. So Murray talks can be seen as a failure. And on the other hand, the Taliban started giving the red lines. It means what are the conditionalities for them to participate in the talks. And clearly, the United States has taken or relied on only the Pakistan for this matter. And then later, a quadrilateral coordination group was created. So it consists of Afghanistan, Pakistan, China, and United States. Why the China was included in this? It was expected that the China will give the pressure on the Pakistan and Pakistan will facilitate the talks with the Taliban. But it also did not see the light of the day. And the people and their respect towards the national unity government is waning. And various dissident factions, they are demanding already for the constitutional amendments, including the former president, Mr. Karzai. So in this context, what is the way forward is the question before the Afghanistan. Now there are three summits which are about to happen. One is the Warsaw summit, where the donors are going to help the Afghanistan development. Then the Brussels, where European Union will make a decision on aid to the Afghanistan. And a Heart of Asia Ministerial Conference that is going to be held in New Delhi. All these summits, they have to provide a way forward towards the Afghanistan. Coming to the crisis of drinking water, you know that the climate change has made the droughts more frequent. So in this context, our yield, productivity and production of essential crops such as rice and wheat is drastically decreasing. So in this context, irrigation plays a very critical role. But however, in India, the cost of creating the irrigation potential has increased manifold, and the marginal return on the irrigation potential so created is decreasing drastically. It has come down almost 2.5 times. So in this context, what is the way forward? One is conservation of the water. So moving away from the major irrigation projects to minor irrigation projects will play a critical role. And the second is, we shall focus on the long-term remedial measures rather than the short-term measures over here. So in this case, drip irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, etc. and drought-resistant seeds, cultivation of these seeds, all these can provide for a way forward. Now coming to the FDI inflows, this year India has got the highest FDI inflows, that is to the tune of $51 billion. So National Capital Territory of Delhi followed by the Mumbai, these are the two regions that have received the highest capital flows. But highest increase in growth is not this year, it is in 2007. But however, highest flows in the volume is in this year. Now coming to the Dolkun Isa, the World Uyghur Congress president, he was about to be visiting Dharmashala conference. But however, India has took a step back on his visa, and External Affairs Ministry declared it as an error with regard to the visa processing, and it has kept the blame on the Home Ministry. So this is what we describe it as buck passing. So in this context, the tit for tat, something which is praised by the various newspaper, it was all reduced to an error under the Chinese pressure. Now, all the mobile phones, they shall have a panic button. So, women in distress can press this panic button and the security forces can be alerted. So, this is what is the directive given by the Department of Telecommunications for all the mobile phones. Coming to the Saudi Arabia Vision 2030. Now, in this article, let us see the Saudi Arabia situation now. The highest export of the Saudi Arabia is the oil, followed by dates. So it means the difference between the first export and the second export almost 1,000 times. So in this context, Saudi Arabia is majorly an oil dependent economy. If oil prices are falling, that is going to be devastating to the economy. That is one thing. So the social security benefits are decreasing the people as the fiscal deficit of the state is increasing. So in this context, it has put forward a direction to the entire economy where it wants to get its economy diversified and less oil dependent by 2030. The focus is majorly on the infrastructure and also on the defense sectors. So in this case, the oil company of Saudi Arabia, Aramco, which has been valued at $2.5 trillion, it was disinvestment proposals are put forward in that. 5% of the disinvestment and whatever the funds that flow from it will be added up to the sovereign fund of Saudi Arabia. So the objective is to create a sovereign fund of $2 trillion, which will be the largest in the world, surpassing even the Norway. So this will be used for investments across the globe. This is what is the thing which is laid for. And added to that, the Arab-speaking community and Muslims across the world, they will be given long-term visas in Saudi Arabia. So to a kind of a green cards will be given for these people to work in Saudi Arabia. Now, the polluter pays principle. So the first damage then fix. Let us understand two scenarios over here. So the Ravi Shankar's meeting on Yamuna floodplains. So Art of Living meeting, a world religious meet. It has led to the destruction of the floodplains. Next, the National Green Tribunal, it has asked for a payment of 5 crores as the penalty. If you carefully observe, what is the polluter pays principle mean? It is to stop a particular individual or organization from causing a damage. It is not about inflicting the damage and getting the polluter paid. So it is more to, threaten an individual or organization not to take an action against or else further damaging of the environment. That is what is the intention. So on the other way, it shall not be construed saying that if you can pollute and then you can pay as a compensation to that pollution. That is not the objective. Now coming to the medicinal bills. Now let's understand branded drugs versus the patent, the generic drugs. Now these branded drugs, they are some 5 to 6 times costlier compared to the generic drugs. The generic drugs are supplied through the Jan Aushadhi shops. Now, doctors over a period of time, they got habituated to provide for the branded drugs, prescribe the branded drugs. Now, in this case, that is increasing the cost of the healthcare delivery. Added to that, the governmental hospitals, etc., they are procuring the branded drugs. So, in this case, if you see the UK's model national health services, the doctor will not prescribe any brand. He will prescribe the composition of the drug and then that will be bought by the patient. Similarly, in India, the doctors can be recommended to prescribe only the composition and it is left to the choice of the patient to buy what the drug, either branded or generic, to buy. And second is, at the pharmacy level, with regard to particular composition, what all the tablets which are available and their code names, etc., have to be displayed. For example, doctor prescribes a brand name. What are the alternative names under the generic drugs for that brand? So that shall be made available at the pharmacy level. And finally, doctors can be forced to give only the generic drugs through a legal mechanism. And the state and central government hospitals can be issued an order to buy the generic drugs which can help them to decrease their costs of operation. So these are the various things which the government is considering to increase the use of Jan Aushadhi shops and decrease the cost of healthcare. Coming to the patent approvals. So what is the government department which is handling the patent approvals? The Department of Industrial Promotion and Policy. Now, in the normal period for approval of the patent from its first submission, it is 18 months in United States of America. It is around 7 years in India. Now, India wants to reduce this period of 7 years to 18 months. For this, it is providing for the new recruitments where almost the human resources are being tripled with regard to the trade patents are concerned. Now coming to the Indian Express newspaper, who are Uyghurs? Now if you take the China, on the western side of the China, you have Xinjiang province. Here the Turkish speaking Muslim minority population, these are called as Uyghurs. These are ethnically and culturally more related to the Central Asian countries of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and they are quite different from the Huns. Now in this, if you remember the China-Pakistan economic corridor, the Kashgar is the area which is located in this particular province. So Urumqi, Kashgar, all these are the places over here. So as infrastructure projects take in a deep root, many of the Chinese nationals, or else the Huns, who are the typical ethnicity of China, they got settled in this place and they took over the economic benefits. And then there is a resentment started among these people. And the second thing is, the state is also seen as violating their human rights. So in this context, a demand for a separate nationhood has started among the Uyghurs. So the person, that is the Isa, belongs to this community Uyghurs and is residing in Germany. Now coming to how to measure the poverty. So I'm going to give you a brief explanation of this as this. Now, if you take the poverty, it has of two important areas. One is, there are multiple committees that gave the recommendations, Alag, then Tendulkar, NC Saxena, etc. So now, the Panagaria, the Niti Ayog vice chairman, what he said is, let us separate the estimations of the poverty from the entitlements. So the poverty estimations will be made using the Tendulkar's process, and the identifying the poor to provide the entitlements can be based on NC Saxena formula. So that is what is Panagaria is suggesting for. And blunder on Isa. So this is about the diplomacy shall not be based on tit for tat or immediate reactions. We always think about the long-term repercussions. So the government's blunder on Isa shows the lack of a long-term strategy with regard to these issues. Now coming to the next article about urban local governments. Sorry, it is about states and their fiscal deficits. Here we need to understand the 14th Finance Commission and fall in oil prices. What the 14th Finance Commission said is, the states that are maintaining the fiscal deficit within the 3% of GDP, then they shall be given extra benefits to access the borrowings from the market. If a state is having 3% of the fiscal deficit, 0.5% of the excess borrowings can be made. And added to that, if it is able to reduce its debt to GDP ratio by 25% compared to the last year, it gets another 0.25% leverage. And if it is able to reduce interest rates paid compared to the last year by 10%, then 0.25% can be enhanced. It means total 1% of net of GDP can be borrowed from the open markets. So in this context, the states are really not in a position to do this. One is the fall in oil prices. So oil prices, the sales tax, that is VAT, which is levied by the states, it is based on the percentage of the price. As the price decreased, the amount realized on the oil and petroleum sales for the state has also decreased. After the pay revisions, the expenditures of the state has increased. So in this context, only the 5 states are actually falling in this particular category. So in this case, many of the states will be left out of these incentives. Now coming to the revision of these topics, now we know that the judiciary, as 50 per million is expected, we have only 16 judges per million population. And coming to the center-state relations, the bilateral investment treaty is an obligation of the center. The center cannot get into conflict with the states on this matter by making them to sign an investment agreement with the center. Coming to Afghanistan, the Taliban negotiations with the Taliban is going no way forward, and Taliban are trying to show their identity through various terror activities in Kabul and other provinces. Now coming to the water scarcity, so shifting to drought resistant varieties, conserving the water, shifting from macro to micro irrigation, all these will show the effective results. FDI flows. This year has shown the highest FDI flows. The reason include ease of doing business, relaxation of the FDI norms, etc. Coming to foreign secretary talks, India, Pakistan foreign secretaries are going to meet on the sidelines of the Heart of Asia Conference, Foreign Secretaries Conference. And then coming to the Saudi Arabia, it has announced for Vision 2030 to make itself as an economy beyond the oil and petroleum. And finally, issues related to health, the generic drugs will be given due emphasis in medical prescriptions. And patents, the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion is increasing its human capabilities for this. And coming to the poverty estimation, so what has been said is, the Niti Aayog chief, the poverty estimation can be done on Tendulkar criteria, and NC Saxena criteria can be used for identification of beneficiaries. With regard to the Panchayat Raj institutions by Venkaiah Naidu, as per the devolution of Panchayat Devolution Index prepared by the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, other than Kerala and Karnataka, none of the states have really transferred the powers, functions and finances to the Panchayats. So it is the time the state shall act, as the centre already has promised more than 2 lakh crores of rupees of devolutions to the Panchayat over the next 5 years, as per the 14th Finance Commission recommendations. So these are the news for today. Thank you and all the best.